So most hotels will say they're haunted, I guess, if you talk to the right people. But the two I've been to that I think are pretty legit as far as like history goes.
So I'm going to cut you because I'm going to guess what one of them is.
Okay.
Because knowing where you live, have you stayed at the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast?
That's the one. That's one of them. That's it. Yep.
I knew that had to be on. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Scary Movie Project. I'm your host, Matt. And today, 1408, a man who specializes in debunking paranormal occurrences checks into the fabled room 1408 in the fictional Dolphin. I love that name, the Dolphin Hotel. Soon after settling in, he confronts genuine terror. 2007. I believe 1408, and after a Stephen King short story we can get to. And since we're talking about short stories, I want to welcome friend of the show J.W. Ocker, who has been on before. You remember him from our Salem episode. J.W. is a travel writer. He's an author. He is a man of many hats. And he's written a couple, for those out there that are watching, I'll pimp out the New England Grimpendium, which you should read, the Salem book he wrote, and two new novels this year. I'll let you talk about those. Please say hello, and say what you bring, wonderful things you bring to the world.
Hello. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for being on again, man. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to this one. So I'm an author, a travel writer of the paranormal, kind of like our main character here in the movie. Yeah. My latest two books were from this year were The United States of Cryptids, which is basically me traveling across the country, going to towns obsessed with monsters. So that's that book. And then my other book is a novel it's a children's horror novel called The Black Slide, about a bunch of kids that go down a black slide and tube slide and end up in a world of pain and torture. I call it Hellraiser for kids.
That is not pleasant. That is not pleasant.
And I guess borderline kids book. I mean, it's in the kids section, but
it's okay.
It depends on the kid, I guess.
So I'll make just total shameless promotion here since we're talking about cryptids. And for those that haven't seen it yet, please watch my documentary, Something in the Bay, The Tale of Chessie, about the Chesapeake Bay monster that I made. You can find it on my website through YouTube. So totally shameless promotion. Sorry if I stole your
No. I'm all for anything Maryland based.
We can talk about that another day. But anyway, so 1408, right? So this is, I think now, like the fifth Stephen King piece we've done probably on this show, which is fine. I love him. I know you love him too. My first question, so this is about the short. Have you read the short story?
I have not, no. So I haven't read a lot of King. I'm very weak on my King literature, but I'm huge on my King movies. I've seen I think almost every single King movie.
Okay. So it's a short story, and I think it was Everything's Eventual. I love his short story collections, by the way. They're really good. A lot of stuff has been based off from them. Premise is the same, right? Author stays in haunted locations, goes to this place, crazy things happen. There's a few differences, whatever. We don't waste our time on it. It's the same story. So this time around, it is was it John Cusack, right?
It is John Cusack, yeah.
Mike Enslin or something is his name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Travel writer who visits all these hotels that are supposedly haunted and stays in them, writes about them. He's kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? He's not the nicest guy in the world, right?
No. So he's not too far away from me. He's a cynic who still kind of makes his bread on the paranormal, right? So right. I think his books, like the book that they show in the movie, is top 10 haunted or 10 haunted hotels. That's the entire book. It's 10 haunted hotels, and he goes to different B&B. I would too, yeah. And I bet you that exists, right? It's just funny because normally you'll find that on like local book section. Right. But he's like backed by a major Manhattan publisher whose lawyers are getting him like pulling strings so he can get to these hotels, which makes no sense, but it's great. I love the idea of him going around these hotels, staying up all night, see if they're haunted, using his stuff, and then just writing about it. I mean, that's kind of what I do, minus the ghost hunting part. But so I'm a little bit biased when I picked this movie for tonight.
No, that's fine. What did you think of did that give you any we hope it's never happened, but did it ring true that when he has the one book conference and there's like 3 people that are there in attendance and he's
it's totally happened to all of us. It's like in fact I have a book event coming up in December that I'm pretty sure is going to end up like that one, but it's definitely, it's always a fear, no matter like how big. I've talked to big authors and they have the same fear for some reason, but like it does happen. It's just hard, especially these days. It's hard to like get audiences to be caring about books when there's so much other cool stuff out there.
I did a small film festival years ago and I had a trailer in it, and I went to it and there was like no one there, and they tried to do a Q&A and I'm like, there's no one to talk to here.
No, I did that. So I'll give you one of my embarrassing ones. So one time I was supposed to do a book talk for the New York Compendium at a amusement park in New York. And it was the worst decision. It was outdoors. It was like they couldn't see my slides. There's nobody there. They're all, you can hear like the screams of roller coasters behind me, and that's where everybody was. Of course, nobody was at this little amphitheater with no. It was like, I was supposed to do 2 shows. I did one, and then they're like, I can't do a second one. Nope. Let me go ride the rides instead. But yeah, it happens. It's kind of paying your dues. What it is.
It's all good. Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, and so then that woman who walks up to him and says, I found your original book on eBay or something like that. Will you sign it for me? So yeah, I mean, we kind of find out a little bit more about him though, I guess. So then he's what? I guess he lives in California. He's a surfer, and he's sitting in that restaurant, I guess, and he has a postcard that someone says, "Hey, like I dare you, or don't go to the Dolphin and stay in 1408." And he's like, "Well, now I am, obviously." So I guess who does he talk to get him in there?
He talks to his publisher / editor.
That's right.
Because this was brilliant about this book, and probably about the story. I have no idea, but there's a million haunted house stories out there. And haunted house stories, they rely on isolation. So because haunted houses aren't really scary, like they're not like axe wielding killers, and they're not like creatures with claws or houses.
Right.
So there's not a lot of ways they can scare you or kill you, directly, I should say. But so what they do is they usually, for a haunted house story, you make the isolation terrifying and you go crazy in your head. And what they did for this movie, this haunted hotel room at the Dolphin that you mentioned, is literally a Manhattan hotel room, literally the least isolated spot in the entire planet.
Right.
And they make a haunted house movie out of one hotel room in a giant hotel in a giant city. And I think that concept is brilliant. I love it to death.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. So he shows up there, fancy glitzy place, right? Like you're thinking like you're at the Plaza or something, whatever. And I love that. I mean, who doesn't love Sam Jackson, obviously? But I don't know how I feel about him as the hotel manager in this movie. I mean, he's good at whatever he does, right? But it just feels like that wouldn't be a role for him. But he brings him into his office and says, "Well, I know who you are. You're checking in, but I really don't want you to stay here." He gives him a book of stuff, like saying what happened here. He's going to give him like 100-year-old bottle of scotch to not stay in the room. Like he'll do anything to not get him to stay. And he's like, "Nope, I'm not doing it. I'm staying."
Yeah, and I will say this is one of my favorite scenes of any movie, I think, because I've never seen such a good build up to terror, right? There's always this
that's true.
There's always this idea. There's usually a harbinger, right? In the slasher movies, there's a harbinger saying, "Don't go to Camp Blood" or whatever. Yeah. And whatever they spend 2 seconds saying, "Don't go to Camp Blood," gives them no good reason, doesn't really try to stop them. Just
Crazy Ralph.
Yes, Crazy Ralph. He says his line and he leaves and goes,
"It's cursed."
Exactly. So in this case, the harbinger is Samuel L. Jackson, is the hotel proprietor,
right?
And he tries his hardest to not let this guy stay at this hotel. And he talks him up, and just that build. It's 2 people. It's almost like a 2-person play. 2 people in a single room, and he's in the room is his office. It's not it's Samuel L. Jackson's office.
Fancy office.
Exactly, a really nice posh office.
Yeah.
Him trying to try his hardest to not let Cusack stay in that room. It's so brilliant, and that build up is like, I know what's going to happen. I don't understand what's going to happen.
It's well shot. It's like 10 minutes long. It's it's actually really well done. And that's what I mean. Sam Jackson's the best, right?
Yeah.
The role for him seems weird to me, but the scene is great. It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's incredibly
technically a minor role because you see him one more time. It's a tiny guy in an icebox or something,
right?
But that I think he's only hired for that one scene because somebody had to pull off this level of eloquence and meanness to convince John Cusack to not stay in this hotel room, and he pulls it off. You believe Samuel Jackson does not want him to stay here.
Probably got paid a whole bunch of money.
Sure.
So he takes him up there, and he's like, "Yep, I won't get off here. This is close as I get to the room. It's all you at this point." And then it's like, okay, so what are we now going to see John Cusack do for 90 minutes, right?
Yes.
How is this going to work out? So the thing I'll say, you were talking about isolation, how it's totally not isolated. I have bad claustrophobia. I don't like elevators. I don't like tight spaces and things like that. So for me, it's kind of a movie where I wasn't squirming, but it makes you kind of think about it. Because there's scenes, where the bricks are up in the wall and the windows aren't there anymore. And you do feel like you're trapped. And all this stuff is going to happen in this one little room for all this time. How is this going to work? Right. But
yeah.
I mean, it does, right? So crazy stuff starts to happen, obviously, and it gets really hot or it gets really cold. Or I like when it's hot and he calls the management and the MOD or whatever, the maintenance dude comes up and he just stands there and goes, I'm not coming in the room.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how to fix the thermostat from here. I'm not coming in.
Yep. Yeah. And what they do is a really good job of is So they start the haunting right away. Like the second he gets in the room, you're like, oh, he's just gonna walk around for 20 minutes and kill 20 minutes of this movie, just kind of checking out the mini bar and looking outside and maybe writing in a typewriter, whatever writers do, right? And you're like, but the very first thing that happens is it sounds dumb to say it, but the very first thing that happens is mints appear on his pillow and the toilet paper he just ripped gets refolded in that hotel way that they always do.
That's right.
Turn down service, a ghost turn down service happens, and it's so minor and it's not scary. It's not scary at all.
No.
And it's so not scary to him because he's like, okay, somebody's hiding this room playing these minor pranks on me and tries to find out who that is. But the action starts right away. Like that kind of stuff happens. And then by the time it escalates to the point where you're like, oh, this is actually scary stuff. He's trying to get out. So he logically tries to get out the moment he realizes, oh, this is weird, not cutesy, and somebody's not trying to play a trick on me. He's trying to get out because he's a cynic. He doesn't believe it's a ghost from the start. And that to me was so believable. And that's when like the door handle comes off and like the eyeball and you're like, okay, oh crap. Like you said, he's trapped in a hotel room. And that's a fate. Those of us who spend a lot of times in hotel rooms do not want ever, you know? So I really like how they kind of like logically built up and then they go crazy with what goes on in the room.
And it makes you like wonder because, you know, so have you ever heard of, you aware of the Cecil Hotel? You've probably heard of, right? The one in LA.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I don't know. If you watched American Horror Story Hotel.
I did not, but I did see the documentary on Netflix for the Cecil Hotel.
You got to watch that season if you like horror story. It's awesome. That place is like crazy haunted, or the woman like dying in the water tank or whatever. Like it makes you wonder. I mean, we've all stayed in a lot of hotels, right? But like what does happen in these places? And just like it's so crazy to think about. And I mean,
every hotel, the most generic chain hotel, the Radisson, whatever it is, has a trail of bodies behind it because that's where people go to die, either purposefully, accidentally.
Yep.
How many times do we see celebrities die in hotels? All the time, right?
And you may go to a hotel and you may never know that may have happened, and they're not going to tell you anything about it necessarily.
No.
And look, one of the great horror movies of all time is Psycho, and one of the most famous scenes in movie history in that movie happens in a hotel room.
Yeah.
Right? It happens in a hotel room. She's stabbed to death in the hotel room. So, but yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, I guess let's kind of go through. I mean, so yeah, it gets too hot. He has that fixed, toilet paper stuff. Then the radio, right? And the radio starts playing.
Yes.
And then it starts doing a countdown. That's right. It starts doing a countdown because the manager told him no one's made it more than 60. No one's lasted more than an hour in there, right?
Yes. So, which is a great build up, a literal ticking. It's in screenwriting. You always kind of want a metaphorical ticking clock where like it's counting down in your head and there's a tension building, how to get at us. And here we have a literal ticking clock. You're like, oh man, this is serious. They're literally going to they're not going to like wuss out of this premise at all. They're going to push it hard. And it's really kind of respectable. I love it. Love that idea. And obviously it comes to play later on in the movie, like at the end when it comes back on. And so I love this ticking alarm clock.
And it's cool because actually I like that too, because like you said, when it came back, I had forgotten about it.
Yeah.
I had forgotten it was running until he sees it later. And I was like, oh yeah, the clock, of course. So weird stuff starts to happen. Like he starts to see the ghosts of the people that killed themselves. Like he sees the one guy like crawl, or the woman that crawls to the window to jump out the window, I guess. And he sees another guy, some other guy, I forget what the ghost does, but and it's really funny because you're sitting there thinking to yourself, like, if this was just crazy, like what would you do? And if there was no way out? And I remember at one point going to grab the bottle of liquor and I'm thinking, yeah, just down the bottle of booze and pass out and hope you wake up like 8 hours later and you're safe again.
That is not a bad idea. I know at one point
That's what I would have done.
That's a good idea, actually. At one point he gets so paranoid because he thinks maybe what he's seeing is somebody drugged that liquor or the chocolates, because he notice right away he eats one of the chocolates right away.
Yep.
Which is a really good like story twist. But you're right. You just down it. Who cares? Like take yourself out and then see what happens.
What I would just pass out. And I love that one. There's really that only. Oh, there's a couple of minutes of like looking through the wall, or when you see it where he's yelling into the mini fridge, I guess, or something. He wants his drink or whatever. And you finally see it as the audience and they're like, wow, like this guy is crazy. There's nothing going on. Like this is all nuts. Mm-hmm. And when he's on, I love the part when he called, this is so funny, like to watch like a laptop with a camera mounted on it nowadays.
That's right. Because it should be said that you were dead right when it came out in 2007, which was the year the iPhone came out.
Yep.
So this was filmed in what, 2006, 2005. So before the world changed, it was like literally seconds before the world changed.
Yep.
The entire movie time, you're thinking, where's his cell phone? And then halfway through the movie, he thinks to go to his bag and pulls out this flip phone.
Oh my
because
God,
again,
flip
phone. But the thing is,
love it.
Cell phones were something you carried around. You didn't have them on you at all times. It's just something you just had in a bag if you needed it for emergencies.
Yep.
And like,
that's right.
Like you said, the laptop he had, he didn't think about that till like halfway through the movie because it's not a communication device in 2006. He has this giant camera on it.
He's got the camera on it. I love it. And I love, it's so fun to look at that stuff, right? To think about that. So, and I love that, he calls up his ex-wife or his whatever, she is wife or whatever. Mm-hmm. And you see that other, like, what's the doppelganger, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And he's actually telling her, no. And he's yelling and yelling and yelling. So you kind of get those two moments where you're seeing like, the fourth wall, or you're looking through whatever, and you're seeing how, what's playing out, because like the hour is passing, but at the same time, what is really happening, and then one thing, the crappy part is then, him seeing the story of his life, of what's been going on lately, where he had, unfortunately he and his wife had a daughter who had a terrible disease and died from it, I guess, but she couldn't have been more than 10 years old. I would assume. Right.
Yeah.
And that obviously, and it happens, and it's very true. It can ruin relationships, and he and his wife are a bit estranged, I guess, from something like this. So
yeah, because that's
that part of him.
Yeah, that subplot is,
because that is not in the short story. I will just say that. But
oh, really? Yeah. So the way they use it in the movie is, the way his wife comforts his daughter who has this inevitable death. It's not curable. Is to say, hey, there's a heaven. You're going to go there. It's gonna be nice. And, cure and be that way. And then here he is now, cynical and jaded, being like, there's no heaven, there's no afterlife, there's no ghosts. I make a living off ghosts, but there's no ghosts. So it's almost like this hotel is trying to prove to him there's a ghost. So there's like all this kind of backstory with his daughter popping up, and it's pretty interesting. It's like it's still too on the nose, I think, a little too on the nose, like his dead daughter talking to him, but it works pretty well. But again, the best part for me is when it gets weird. Like there's some conventional stuff, like you see ghosts and then you see bleeding walls. But when it gets really weird in there, again, the ticking clock of the alarm, when he looks out the window and sees somebody in the window across the street, and it turns out to be himself, that was
wasn't that wild?
Weird. Yeah. It's like, that's brilliant. That's a brilliant way to do it. And the thing you mentioned, right, where it's he's on his laptop with his wife, who he just left after the death of his daughter. He just left, and like she doesn't even know what their relationship is the past year, and so we have to explain this because we're on Zoom right now, and I see your face, and you see my face, pretty much the same with his video chat back then.
Just doing a video chat.
Yeah, but what happens is suddenly his face in the video chat, not in real life, in the video chat, starts saying things he's not saying, and like taking over that square, and like talking to his wife while he's going, no, it's not me, it's not me,
yelling at her. Yeah.
So it's almost like a very prescient modern terror. Like if suddenly I just stopped talking, but my Zoom square,
that's pretty interesting,
talking,
right?
That's terrifying.
It is, and then that is a modern that is a great modern like way to put that. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that was a weird part for me, and of course him climbing out on the wall, on the ledge, and he's counting how many, and then he gets there and he looks down and he realizes there's infinity, and there is no other window to get back into, and how he's got to get back inside. Oh, have it when he cuts his hand, right? Near the
on the windowsill, right?
Oh man. He's like, so I'm out of here.
As you can see, like just by the way we're talking about this, tons of stuff happens in this movie that's mostly inside of a hotel room. Somehow tons of stuff happens. So they play off the premise really well, because there's ways to like kind of belie that premise by maybe letting him out, and like, which they do at times. It seems like they do at times. So there's like all this stuff where he's getting tricked, but at the endings of the movie are very heartbreaking. They're very, very heartbreaking. So so he gets through all this terror, and both literal terror, bleeding walls, ghosts, all this kinds of stuff, almost falling out the window, to like metaphysical terror, seeing his daughter turn to ash in front of him, seeing his like mean old father,
his
in
dad,
the
right? Yeah.
So he had both kinds of terror. And then the clock strikes down, and he's still alive. He's laying on the hotel room. And
it's really cool because the journey, all the crazy, you could just make a movie with just crazy things happening in a room and whatever, but it's he crawls up into the air vents, right? Like he walks through the different rooms, and then he sees like he's back in time with him and his wife arguing again in one of those scenes, and then he falls back the ship, the painting of the ship. And it becomes real, and the room gets flooded, and he's drowning. And you go back to that. Oh, and how about the scene where remember he's surfing early on, and he gets knocked out, and then he's back to that surfing. He's back in a hospital, and then we leave the hotel for a good 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And we think we're back in this reality, and we're not.
Oh,
And
it's so heartbreaking because he gets everything he wants. He's back with his wife. It's everything's happy and sunny. He's back in California.
Yeah,
it's like he finally has come to terms with life, and then bam, he's back in that hotel room, and your stomach just
yelling.
drops.
I was out. It's like,
I felt those lines. Like my two favorite lines in the movie was I was out. And the other one was at the beginning. It should have been the tagline to the movie, but when Samuel Jackson says, "It's an evil fucking room."
Yes.
Like, that should have been right at the poster, you know?
I do remember that. That is a great line. That's definitely a Sam Jackson line, too.
Yeah, exactly. Only he can spit that out exactly right.
He would say that.
So he gets knocked back. So that false ending was a heartbreaker. And then what really was terrifying
but even though you hadn't seen, even though you and I have seen it, you knew, I think, the first time that maybe this was not really happening.
Yeah, but then you kind of knew, but then they let it go so long that you got invested in this mini story of him being happy again, even though you're still doubting it. And then bam, he's back. And then the clock hits the hour mark. And you're like, oh crap, what's going to happen? Is he free? Was it just testing him? And then it starts over again, telling you that he's about to go through all that a second time. And suddenly you realize why everybody in this room has killed themselves. Because who wants knowing what you're about to go through again?
No, thanks. Yeah.
That's the worst part.
I'm good.
Like going through it sucks, but knowing you're about to go through it again, you're like, I'm out. Sorry.
So what about, oh man, what was I going to say about, oh geez, I lost my train of thought. Oh man. And then when he gets out of it again, though, remember, and he's walking around, and the room is. Oh, I know what I was going to say. The phone call part with the woman's voice saying, "Would you like to do your journey again or whatever? Would you like to check out now or something?"
Express checkout.
Yeah, express checkout or whatever. And you're like, "What the heck?" And then he's walking around the room, and he's seeing the noose everywhere, and the room is just like saying, "Like, let's go, just kill yourself, come on."
We'll do it again. We'll do it again.
I'm gonna win. I'm the evil presence. Like, I'm gonna get this. And then finally, I love that he has a cigarette with him that he walks around with, and he's like, "Nah, use it for this or whatever." And then he just, makes his, with like the flaming the Molotov, whatever, and he just burns the joint down. And he's like, "I'm just gonna light up and smoke the cigarette, and I'm gonna enjoy myself here."
Yeah, that's the one part of the movie I didn't quite get my head around, where it's that easy to beat the room is just to burn it down. Like, why didn't Samuel Jackson burn it down? Why didn't anybody try to burn it? It was like,
right.
It was like almost too easy to beat the room, but you got to beat it somehow.
But he survived the hour. Maybe that was the whole part of it. Maybe it's like, okay, he had to get through that first. And then maybe once he did that, he was able to then, I don't know. And
it was an act of suicide by him. He definitely wanted, he's like, the moment you said, would you like to check out? He was like, not the way you want to. And then that's when he started his Molotov cocktail and his cigarette. And the cigarette was for the end of the world. He didn't smoke it. He's always had it behind his ear for the end of the world. So he was going to burn this room down with him inside of it. He was fine with that. He'd kind of come to terms with that, which is probably the powerful part of that act.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. There were definitely some scary moments. I mean, do I love this movie? I don't love it, but it's good. I mean, anything King writes, I finally read so many books when I was a kid that I finally got to the point of, like, I had to stop doing them backwards, and I had to start reading these books first and then watching these, because you build the characters in your head, but the letdown is always when you watch the movie but that's not how that person looks. That's not right. That's not right. That's not how I have them in my head. I think John Cusack, is perfect.
Yeah, he is perfect for this role.
He's perfect.
I where I would categorize this movie as, I always get asked, what for people who just are getting started in horror, my daughter, because I write horror novels for kids, so I talk to kids a lot. They always say, kind of, what horror movie should I start with? And this is when I would say this is a good starter horror movie, because it's PG-13 it's PG-13 back in 2007.
Right. It is, isn't it?
And it's scary, but not scarring. I don't remember any over the top grotesquerie or anything that would ruin a person.
Terrible.
The language is very, so this is one of the ones I put those categories of. If you want to figure out horror movies, this is a good one for you. Start with this one. It's not going to ruin you it's not like Texas Chainsaw or the Serbian film or whatever. Just do this one. Start with this one.
There you go. Wow. I had that sitting on my shelf when you talk about that one of these days.
That's enough to talk about.
That's kind of like I remember, like, Rob Zombie saying once, The Shining is the movie where people say, I don't really like horror movies, but I love The Shining. It's like, okay, so that's like your starter intro movie.
That's like the art. If you like an art movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and it's great because these are the exact same plots, right? Writer goes to a hotel.
Goes crazy. Crazy things happen. Right. Exactly. Well,
Like,
Stephen King likes to write about stuff like write about.
I know. That's what I love about him is he just always has a writer as a main character, and as a writer, I'm always like, I love that, even though it's boring to most people.
Have you read or seen them or both? The Dark Half.
Yes, definitely. Oh, I've seen it. I haven't read it.
Love the book, like the movie a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the movie too.
Read The Dark Half. That's a good one. That's writer stuff too. And of course, Misery. Yeah, I mean, that's what he writes about, obviously. But yeah, no, and then at the end, and so the cool part about now, I haven't seen this. You've seen the movie a couple times. Have you seen the alternate endings? Have you seen them all? Because there are like 2 of them.
I have not. I've read them. I've read about them, like on trivia, but I've not seen. In fact, my memory was, so I've seen this movie, I think 2 other times before this week when I rewatched it for the show. My memory was that the ending was a downer ending, that it was a sad ending. I did not realize it was a happy, kind of uplifting ending. I totally either blocked that out, or maybe reading about the alternate endings completely messed up my memory, but I did not remember it being a happy ending like it was.
So I saw and again, this is depending on the one. I just rented it, I watched it, whatever, and it was, my ending was him finding the tape recorder. They're in the house, he and his wife, they're back together. He finds the plastic bag with the tape recorder. He plays back the tape, because we've mentioned that too. He records all these things back on those mini cassette tapes, by the way. Which
I had one. Every writer had to have one back then. Even if you didn't know how to use it, you definitely always had one to take notes, audible notes with.
I'm sure I had one too. And he's playing back the tape, and they hear the daughter talking. So that was my ending, at least the one I watched.
Yeah, same.
There's another one where I forget.
Which is a brilliant ending. Like I always want endings to be downer for some reason, but it's brilliant because so he survives the fire, obviously, and takes down the hotel room, but you're still doubting that good ending the entire time. Like, is he being fooled again? He's already gotten out once technically and went through this nice little moment with his wife, this time with his wife, moved in with his wife and everything, and it turned out to be fake. Is this ending also fake? So the entire time you're semi-doubting it until the very end that the credits roll, and then you have to believe it, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a good setup. But yeah, it's a happy ending. And they get proof of ghost and proof their daughter is still around in the afterlife, whatever.
And like, what would you do if that happened? Like, that's insane. But yeah, and so what were I'm blanking on the endings. I think there was one where one of the endings is he dies. I think they shot where he actually does die in the fire. He does die. And I think they like have something happen like his funeral. Like they go the whole 9 yards with this deal. Like it goes all out.
So he dies, he goes to the funeral or he gets buried beside his daughter. And then Samuel Jackson is at the funeral with this box of materials from the fire. And it's that tape recorder you just mentioned, the mini tape recorder, and it's the dress his daughter's dress that he got through the fax machine at the hotel room. Like his daughter's dress came through the fax machine. Yes. Which I was watching this. My daughter, I had to explain to her what a fax machine was. She had no idea why this dress was coming out of this. Oh my God, piece of machinery. So Samuel Jackson goes to his wife, goes to Cusack's wife or Enslin's wife, and says, "Hey, he did a good thing. I want you to know his death was not in vain. It was a good thing. Right. And I want to give you this box of his stuff." And she cuts him off, and she doesn't want to hear it. She doesn't want the box, and she leaves him. So here's Samuel Jackson, the box. He goes back into his car, looks in the box, sees what's in there. Here's the tape recorder. He plays it, and then like sees the daughter in the back seat, sees Enslin in the back seat, all burned up, as a final jump scare. So it's like a really downer ending. Like he dies, and the wife doesn't get any comfort.
See, I wasn't paying attention. I forgot, and I was watching. I probably could have accessed it. I'm gonna try to go find it. I'm gonna see if maybe just on YouTube someone just posted it quicker. I can watch this couple. I'm sure it's only a couple minutes. But I'd like to see that. Alternate ending stuff is always good. Yeah. I mean, no, overall, do I love it? No, I don't love it, but I've seen it now twice. I've enjoyed it because it makes you wonder so that's a good question. So that's where I wanted to go to, because I want to transition into. So just like you, I mean, I love anything haunted. Anyone tells me go see a haunted place, let's go tomorrow. Like I'm ready to go right now. So I have not, at least outright to my knowledge, stayed in any haunted hotels. I've slept in hotels in Transylvania, but I don't know if that necessarily counts as haunted. I don't think, but never anything like that. Like I've never been to the Stanley Hotel in Colorado or anything. Have you ever stayed in any that are, or you've been told they were?
Yeah. So 2 major ones. So here's the thing: 2007 for younger audiences. 2007 was not the end, but pretty much a cap on the big ghost hunter phenomenon. So late 90s, early 2000s, the ghost hunters show plus all the copycats
show on
everywhere.
Sci-Fi was weekly viewing for me.
Yes, exactly. This guy's going to places, and what happened as a result of like ghost hunters being big and mainstream is every hotel claimed to be haunted because it would bring more ghost hunters into even not TV ghost hunters, but like local ghost hunters into their, and it'd be a business model, which is what John Cusack says at the beginning, saying, you know, these hotels are just trying to drum up business because the highway went around them at some point. So now they just hear making paranormal people come in. So it's a business. It was a business model that started whatever 2000s. So most hotels will say they're haunted, I guess, if you talk to the right people. But the two I've been to that I think are pretty legit as far as like history goes.
So I'm going to cut you because I'm going to guess what one of them is.
Okay.
Because knowing where you live, have you stayed at the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast?
That's the one. That's one of them. That's it. Yep.
I knew that had to be on there.
Yeah, me and I stayed there. Actually, you know what year we stayed there was 2007, the year this movie came out.
I have been through fall. So I'm horrible. Like every year I go, I haven't been up in a couple of years. It is always like number one on my list. And then as like the people I go with have more to do, it somehow just evaporates and I never get to go. I'm going like next time. So how is it? I mean, is it cool to visit on its own? But yeah, staying there, how is that?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I visited it when I live in New England now. I live probably 40 minutes away from it now, but I visited it back when I lived in Maryland or Maryland, Virginia area, and I was like, I drove like 8 hours to go stay there. It was like a big New England road trip that me and my
what I do. Yeah, we drive.
Then girlfriend did. Yeah. And then, but now once I moved up here, I haven't been inside that. I've lived here for 12 years now, 40 minutes away from it. I haven't been inside of it one time. It's the whole thing. You never visit stuff local to you.
No, never.
But it was really fascinating when we did visit it. Like every room was full. It was scary. It was like they gave you the run of the house. I think the thing we did wrong was we put it as part of a bigger road trip, and we were actually beat. We actually did want to use it as a hotel.
Yeah.
So by midnight, 1 o'clock, we were dead tired. We didn't want to explore anymore. We wanted to sleep. But it is, I remember my wife, my now wife, then girlfriend, she would we were in bed and I fell asleep first and she kept like shaking me awake every single time because she couldn't go to sleep and she did not want to sleep. So we were sleeping in Lizzie Borden's actual room is what we got. Which is the second room you want. The first room you want is the one where her mother died. Yeah, because she died in the room, hacked to death on the carpet by the bed.
That's right.
Somebody else had that one. So we got her actual room. My wife tried on like her dress. There was like a dress in there and stuff. We did a lot of stuff.
Man.
But yeah, it felt creepy. Not just because you were in a haunted hotel, a haunted bed and breakfast. This is a bed and breakfast, but because literally one room away, one door away from us that's held together by one little hook is a strange group of 3 people that I did not know who they were. The next room over was 2 people. I shared a bathroom with 2 people I didn't know.
Part, right?
Yeah, so a bunch of strangers in a haunted house. Definitely worth doing though. I think these days back then it was a privately owned place. These days I think a ghost or a paranormal attraction company owns it. So it's part of they buy up all these famous paranormal places and then turn them into businesses, which
you just got to wonder how corny, how campy that gets though after time.
You have to wonder.
I at least need to go. I would stay the night. Why not? But
yeah, you need to. Yeah, we did a seance there as well. That's one of the things we did.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's my one. That's my big one that you know about. My other one that I put forward was during a road trip in Ireland. We stayed at the Ballygally Castle Hotel.
Oh, that's awesome.
And what this is it looks like a hotel, except at the very end is the remnants of an old ancient castle. It's like the entire tower. And you go there and like we had a room in the regular hotel, and you go down the hall and it says ghost room this way. And you go
there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like literally a glass, like a brass plate, just like the numbers on the wall.
I'll follow the sign.
Yeah. And you go and you get to the old part of the hotel, which is that giant tower. And you go all the way to the top of the tower. And there's a single room at the top of the tower, a small one, about the size of my study here, just a room. And it's a room. I can't remember the whole lore, but a woman lived there. She died. She haunts that room. There's a picture of her there. And you're allowed to just hang out up there and just like, it's a tiny old castle in Ireland. It's a really cool thing. But, that was my other haunted castle night or haunted hotel night. Was a haunted hotel / castle. So
that sounds very cool. I like to do a castle. Now I will say I once stayed at a Howard Johnson that I wouldn't be surprised if someone had been murdered in it at some point.
Yeah. But I have my share of Fleabag hotels for sure.
I've stayed at Timberline Lodge in Oregon, which is the outside exterior shots of The Shining. That doesn't count because the hotel that's not haunted. I would like to stay at the Stanley Hotel in Colorado. It's beautiful anyway.
Yeah.
Just to be there. But yeah, they say, have you been, what's the hotel in, there in New Hampshire? What's the big?
Oh, it's just slipped my mind. It's one of those big classic, 19th century hotels, like in the middle of mountains.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, just slipped my mind too. Great.
I don't know. Does that have any story behind it?
They all do. Yeah, actually it does. I think Jeff Ballinger did a podcast on it, episode a few weeks ago. But yeah, it does. Good. A lot of people when I first moved up here, a lot of people were saying that's the hotel that inspired Stephen King to write The Shining because it's local to him and stuff. It isn't,
Right.
but it looks
No,
like the
but it
Shining
looks,
Hotel.
yes, it's that old, that old fashioned.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so I would like to stay there. There's a here's what I want to do, and I have a lot of people that probably think I'm crazy. Do you know about the Clown Motel?
Oh, I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I don't know if you'd been there.
Yeah,
So there
totally.
is a Clown Motel in Tonopah. Is it Tonopah, Nevada?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
It's like an old mining town, and it is a little rundown hotel, and the owners just have every piece of clown paraphernalia you can want. It's supposedly haunted. People
Well, it's
say
right beside a graveyard. It's right beside an old miner graveyard.
that's the best part. It's behind the graveyard. So you get, 2 for 1 right there.
And it's a very unique graveyard. It's all wooden gravestones with like tin plaques
cool
affixed
looking,
to it.
right?
It looks more different than any graveyard I've ever seen. So it's like very Western.
Old West, exactly.
Yeah.
I definitely want to stay there. They say it's haunted. That show's been on every Travel Channel episode you've ever, right? That is definitely on the list.
When I visited, we didn't stay the night there because it was another road trip for us. We stayed there. We stopped at the hotel. We went inside in the lobby, which is that's where most of the collection is in the lobby of all these toy clowns.
Yeah.
Talked to the proprietor. I was there with my daughter, and like, man, this is cool. We're taking pictures. I try to pretend my daughter like clowns, like, because I don't like telling people I'm into like the creepy, weird stuff. So I try to pretend we're there because my daughter like clowns. So I was embarrassed. And then finally she said, "Do you want to go see a room?" I'm like, "Yes, let's just go see a room." So she took us across the parking lot, and it's a motel basically. All the rooms
it's a little motel. It's a motel.
Yeah. And went in there. There's like, it looks like a drab little hotel. It's like a couple of pictures of the clowns on the wall, but it's definitely but it's in a town, so like right across the street's a Subway. So if you get too scared, you can go run to Subway unless the doorknob falls off, and then you're screwed.
I've never actually seen what is around there. That's kind of like a Nevada trip I want to take at some point. Go to Vegas and Area 51 and visit.
Yes, that's what we did. That's the exact trip we did.
That's it. Yeah, that's what I want to go do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think any other cool hotel. I know there's the Villisca Axe Murder House in Iowa, but I don't think you can stay there. I think it's just
that's on my top 10 as well. Like sites in general. That's when most of my top 10 these days. I've been to so many odd sites is just stuff I've heard about all my life or all my career. And like, I've just never gotten there for some reason. And the Axe Motel in Iowa there, Villisca, whatever it's called, is definitely on
Villisca. There.
Villisca.
Yeah. So there's definitely some cool haunted place. I mean, you can look up, those listed all, top 10 haunted hotel in every state. Oh, I've been by it. Never been a Chelsea Hotel in New York City, right?
Yeah,
that's a big one. Sid Vicious and his girlfriend killed themselves there, right? And that would happen, I think.
I'll also say, just because we just haven't watched the movie, so 1408, it was all sets, but the exterior of 1408 is the Roosevelt Hotel, which is in Manhattan. So I got to go by that at one point.
Okay, I think I did see that. Yeah, good point. Yeah, because that's
for those of you like visiting filming sites, which I do as well.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, so there's a lot of cool hotel. I mean, no, they're just haunted. They are what they are, right?
And he talks about that in the movie a lot. There's just something about hotel rooms and hotels that like make you take, there's just something weird about them. They're like liminal spaces or whatever. And it's so true. So true.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a pretty interesting thing.
Mount Washington Hotel, by the way, for the New Hampshire hotels, the Mount Washington Hotel.
That's what I thought it was. Okay. I definitely want to check that out at some point. So yeah, I think those are my kind of and I'd like to go visit the Cecil in LA, I guess, and go
yes.
I did go visit. I drove by and walked around the Hotel Coronado in San Diego. I think that's supposed to be pretty haunted.
It's a big one, yeah.
I didn't go inside of it though. So anyway, yeah. I just need to quit my job and just travel around and visit haunted hotels basically for the rest of my life.
And then write a book about it. Top 10 haunted hotels.
Gracious, you're right. So speaking of books, so let's rewind. Tell us about what you finished up. What do you have coming up? What's going to happen in the next year? What are you working on?
So we haven't made any announcements yet. I do have 2 books that are technically about to be under contract. One will be another kids horror novel, which I can't talk about yet. And the other one will be another nonfiction. So Cursed Objects and United States Cryptids both came out from the same publisher, kind of same kind of format, illustrated essays of the different things, plus my experiences doing them. The third one will be right in line with this one. I can't say which one it is yet because again, the ink hasn't been signed yet, or the contract hasn't been signed. But yeah, so I have 2 more projects that I'm definitely working on. When they come out, I'm not sure if they come out next year or the year after that. It's publishing schedules or whatever, but actively working on them. Until then, I'm still flogging all my other books that I have.
It's okay. Yeah. What sites, where can people find you online and everything?
Drop by oddthingsi'veseen.com, which is acronymed Otis. That's my headquarters for everything. Free. There's articles there. All my travels there. You can read. Find out about my books. I have a podcast that died a year and a half ago that I need to resurrect.
Yeah, come on.
Where I just talked about my stuff, talked about my travels. So it's all there. It's a hub of all my work for sure.
I will definitely pimp that. I am a Otis member. It's awesome. I get the monthly newsletter that gives me all kinds of I love the cool links. I just learned about some I learned that Prince Charles is related to Dracula.
That's right. I put that in this last newsletter. That's right.
I don't know how that happens. It's one of those things, but I was glad to learn it. So you learn something interesting by subscribing to this.
Good point. Yeah, I totally forget. I always forget my Patreon. So it's like it's called the Otis Club, and it's mostly a newsletter, but there's other perks. But the newsletter every week, which we've done unbroken for 336 issues. So all my writing on Otis is kind of slacked off. My books take up my time, whatever time. But this is the most consistent writing I have done for 5 years. So yeah, it's definitely something I like a lot.
It's fun. It's fun to read. I enjoy it every month. Okay, well, fabulous. This is great. Thank you for being on. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us talk about 1408. We're going to have 1 or 2 episodes to wrap up the year. They are surprises. I'm not going to ruin them for you. You're all going to have to tune in. Once again, thank you to JW for being on. We'll have to have you on again. We'll read more Stephen King stuff and then reach back out and we'll talk about some more books and movies that he's done. And we can
sounds awesome
from there. So everyone there knows the deal. Listen, subscribe, tell all your friends, tell your neighbors, church, clergy, everybody. Let them know what a great show this is. Even if you don't like it that much, just tell them anyway, because they can listen. You know where to find us: Facebook, Instagram, we're all over the place. So until next time, everybody, remember, measure twice, cut once.
The Scary Movie Project podcast. Learn more at thescarymovieproject.com.